This is the Dick and Conversation podcast. I'm Elissa. If this is your first time listening or seeing me, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. My social media contacts are Dick and Conversation podcast YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share. I always forget that, but I remembered this time. My Facebook page is Dick and Conversation podcast. My Instagram is Dick and Conversation underscore podcast. My email is dickandconvo@gmail.com. And my blue sky, because I'm not on Twitter or X, is dickandconvo dot bluesky dot social. So I first of all had did it again. I recorded a whole episode. I recorded an entire episode on mute. I have got to get this together because there's too much time. I'm old. I go to bed early. Okay, I really don't go to bed early. I get in the bed early, but I don't go to sleep early. I don't go to sleep till about 1:30. And I mean almost every night. Unless I accidentally fall asleep early or if I'm not feeling good or something like that. Then yes, it's early night. But I'm still old. I go to bed. I get into bed. So I recorded an entire episode and forgot to unmute. It was fire too. It was fire. But I did want to, first of all, um, thank my guests that I've been having for the past few weeks. It's back to just me, little old me. Larissa, my cheeks still hurt. Yes, ma'am, they do. My cheeks still hurting. And I still think about some of the things that you and I talked about. And I go like, I would love to have you back anytime. The dating pool episode, I loved, loved. So thank you, Larissa, for being my guest. My guest Shay my last episode, Shay. Yeah, Sip and Chat Lounge. I appreciate you coming on, Shay. Just outstanding. I would love to have you back again so we can do a little deep dive into the book. I appreciate it. And speaking of books, I want to make sure I plug authors that have been on my show. Female authors, you guys are outstanding. I want to first of all plug my cousin Erica and her book, My Pain, My Power, My Pain, My Story, My Journey, My Life, available on Amazon. You can still buy it. Might be a good little Christmas gift. If you can't get it for Christmas, get it for after Christmas gift or Valentine's Day or birthday or something like that. Erica was on in the summertime and she did an amazing job. We went through her book and her journey of healing, which I thought was absolutely fantabulous. Enjoy talking to her. I talk to her almost every day anyway. Not necessarily about the book, but just about work, kids. So, Erica, your book is outstanding. I have told her she has the capacity to make it a saga, a saga of books series where she can talk about a lot of things because we never even really got a chance to deep dive into her motherhood, being a grandmother, working in corporate America. Sometimes, like, her being outspoken, how it is the gift and the curse, So, Erica, I want to make sure I plug your book. And also, once again, to talk about Shay Sip and Chat Lounge, available also at Amazon. Also available on Amazon. You can pick it up. As you can see, I purchased my copy December 4th. So I'm going through it now, jumping into it. But Sip and Chat Lounge, she's still on hiatus from her podcast. I'm sure she will resume. It will be outstanding. But I wanted to make sure that I gave you ladies your flowers for coming on, for writing your book, because I think it is outstanding. I think they were both outstanding guests talking about just having a reset. And when life throws curveballs, how you still have to hit it out the park because, we all do. Now, the title of this episode is called What Happened. As you guys may have noticed, if you listen to the episode with Shay and I said, this is the first episode of Conversations with Alyssa. I'm Alyssa, and this is the reason why it's called that, because you're having a conversation with Alyssa. But for the past three years, yeah, going 3 years and a little change, it's been Dick and Conversation. As you notice, I said it again at the beginning of this podcast, Dick and Conversation podcast. Now, I did a whole campaign made promo videos. I had changed some of my social media pages, names, and I did this whole rollout of rebranding because I had grown and my growth, and maybe that's not the name isn't suitable anymore because I've grown and I don't necessarily just tell stories about when I was dating, getting back into dating, but I need to change the name to match who I am now. Well, even when I was doing it, like it just didn't feel right. Like it didn't settle in my spirit. Like it just didn't, I'm like, yeah, I have grown. And I know, there have been people who've been disturbed by the name of the podcast. And y'all, little comments to my family members. I heard them. But I get it. It's not for everyone. You're not my demographic. Um, I know I had got an inbox message one time from Channing Crowder. Well, whomever manages Channing Crowder's his social media. And he's like, just keep making your content and the content that the people like. So my audience finds me and my podcast finds my audience. So Dick and Conversation, that's me. That's who I am. That's something I was saying years before this podcast was ever into being. That one little girl was giving me the Dickens. But that was something that I was saying. And I thought about changing. I tried to change it, and I was like, no. Then people gave me feedback like, Alyssa, don't change the name. And I was like, okay, but should I change the name? And, some that were close to me, like, if you want this to get corporate sponsors, how do you think they're going to feel about that name? Or what if you had to go to your pastor and need help? And I'm like, why would I ever go to my pastor? But you never know. You know what I'm saying? Pastors are supposed to be spiritual leaders, but why am I? But still. And I was like, yeah, that's true. But it just never felt right changing it. So I kept it Dick and Conversation podcast. That's who I am in this space, in this moment when I'm discussing my past missteps and poor decision making and the space that I was in at that moment when it happened, and sometimes the space I'm in right now. I still do some foolishness and mayhem. I just don't tell about it. Always. You got to give me about 6 months till it's old. Then I can make a podcast episode about it. But another thing I was just like, should I change it? And Danye, the host of something. Oh my God. Oh my God. I am going to get this name correct. Oh my God. Hold on. I gotta pause it. What is it? I gotta get it. Something to yay. Something to it's something to yay. Hold on. Let me pause it. Let me look it up because I want to make sure that I make sure I acknowledge it because his podcast is amazing too. So I listen to his. It's a lot about sports sometimes because he's an athlete, but sometimes it's like, oh, this is interesting, where he have things about women and stuff. So, have women guests and they speak from a woman's point of view. So I absolutely like it. It's something every yay. Sorry, Danye. I want to make sure I got it correctly though. It's something every yay podcast on YouTube. So thank you. And he was one of the people who, spoke about the name. And I appreciated that because it was just really troubling. It was really troubling. Like, should I change it? Do I change it? And I decided, nope, I'm not changing it. It is me. That's who it is. And that's who it's going to be. And I understand that, yes, I have still grown. And I have grown in my Christian walk. And then some people may look at us like, Christians don't talk like that. Well, you know what? Everybody has their own journey. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Everybody has their own thing they cross their bearing. And if the name is something that's like going to tear down my Christianity, then my Christianity wasn't much. Okay. So I have guests that are upcoming. My lips, the God's ear, they're coming. They're going to, ring twisted. Outstanding guests that are coming. I have a guest, Angie. She's coming, and I wanted her to tell her story. because she is an outstanding individual. But I also have wanted to get some of my podcasts, Women of Purpose podcast, WAPs, to come on too. Shay was one. Shay is one of them. Also, Cat Rail and Latanya. If you guys come on, I want to do that also. But I also wanted to reach out to some men. There are two men in particular. My cousin Jelani and also Coach Marshall, Kevin Marshall, Marshall Media, and More Than a Coach podcast, and DJ Kev. He got a whole bunch of podcasts. His wife Goy has a podcast, and Mr. and Mrs. They have a whole media. They have a whole broadcasting media. I don't even know what to call it. Universe. They have a media verse, like Powerverse. So that I would love to have them come on because of the things that happened with the coach in Michigan. And I just want to get the take of their take on establishing boundaries when you are in situations where if you're coaching and you have those, little single mamas that show up with their son, or you have women that are on your staff, how do you establish that boundary and keep it solidified? I also need Coach Bruce. Hey, Bruce, my brother, might need you to come back to speak on establishing boundaries and making sure that they're solidified because what happened in Michigan and Michigan State and with Ume Adoka with the Boston Celtics seems to be something that happens where their line is crossed. Either the coach crosses the line or someone that they're in close proximity crosses the line, which results in career damaging publicity and poor decision making. But, so I'll be reaching out to them to see if I can get them lined up. Now, as I was speaking on the name, I want to give an explanation because if this is your first time hearing me, you probably wonder what the heck is up with the name. Well, the name of this podcast, Dick and Conversation Podcast, which was almost penis and prayer. One got me out of trouble, what the other one got me into. I'm kidding. Not really. It comes from my experience after my divorce, when I officially became a divorcee and having to start over. If you go back to the very first episode of What's in a Name and some episodes in between, I speak on this, how I was married. Everything was great. We had children, amassed this, great life. And it fell apart. Like it happens with it happens every day. Different people. It was just my day that day. back 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 in I think 2010, it was my day. And how it fell apart. And I had to essentially start over where I did not have a car, I did not have health insurance, I did not have a place to sleep, I did not have a bed. Yeah. I did not have a bed, and I had to start all over again as a divorcee with two kids in tow. And as I began to amass the things that I had lost, and a new job and health insurance, and new vehicle and place to stay, I decided to dip my toe back into the dating pool. And as Larissa said, it's piss in it. It's piss. It's piss in the dating pool. Not all. It's not totally business. There are some, and I've spoken on quite a few. There are some really, really nice men that are available, that are, you know, able to date, know how to treat a lady. But there is sometimes you have to understand when you're not aligned to that person. You stop chasing these men. He don't want you. He don't want you. Stop trying to make it work. It ain't working, baby. As a round, you trying to put something in the, round peg in the square hole or however that goes. Let it go. Because I had to understand that too. Let it go. They're just not my person. But it is something out there though. It's some piss in that pool too. But I had to learn that to start all over again. And the purpose that was and is this podcast is to always empower women and sometimes educate men about what happens where, situations come and go, life altering events. And I'm told it's told through cautionary tales of my experiences. So you don't have to go through what I went through. Learn from my mistakes because there were times where, the police was called on me. I called the police. I broke into my own home. I was acting a fool. I went on people's job. I rode by houses in the middle of the night to see was a car there. Go back to red flags and red lights and red flags. I speak on all of it. So the purpose of my whole podcast, period, is to always give these cautionary tales to empower women so that you don't put yourself in a position where you're dependent upon someone. And if they leave or you're unhappy, they're unhappy, you are now in a situation where you're going to suffer a tremendous loss, which is what I did. When you won't have a place to stay, nothing to drive, no health insurance, that is a tremendous loss just from the loss of a relationship. Now, if you meet someone and you guys partner, and it looks like God aligned it, because yes, I'm Christian. God aligned it. You got to make sure you're equally yoked and put together. And you begin to amass together. That's one thing. But if you are with someone and you begin to make them your everything, your all in all, and you factor them into your life and into their money, into your budget, and if they decide to leave, you have nothing. Don't do that. So I spoke about after that situation where I lost and had to start all over. When I did get back into that that pissy pool, Larissa, get back into that pissy pool. When things did not work out with whomever I was dating, only thing I really lost was dick and conversation, because some were being intimate, some I wasn't. But those with whom I was being intimate with, when they left, so okay, so I won't talk to you and I won't touch you and you won't touch me. But my lights are still on. My kids will still eat. I still will have a vehicle to drive and a place to sleep. And that's my whole premise of it, because it started with a young man I was dating at the time. Might still be, knows. But he was speaking on how he was dating a woman and he was never going to marry her. He was never going to marry her. And the reason why, he never told her, but he had told his friends. And I said, well, why you didn't tell her? He said, because it sounds bad. And I was like, well, women need to know this. So women need to know things that we don't know, the conversations that men have in their group chats, or the conversations men have in their car rides, or the conversations men have when they're in the garage smoking or drinking or whatever, just working on the car, sitting in the yard, going to trip, whatever it is that they do. Um, some of the things I've been quite privy to, not necessarily just because I grew up in a house of boys, but this podcast seems to be a very safe space for men, where men confide in me about some things and I get it out to the public. And by the public, I mean women, us, that are north of like 25, still thinking we're crazy because we're riding by someone's house in the middle of the night with our bonnet and slippers and pajama bottoms. I've done it. I'm not the only one. It's somebody out there watching and listening too. It's not all these young girls. Some of us aunties that's north of 40, north of 50, smelling 60, still doing that kind of silly stuff. I couldn't have been the only one. But if that is a situation that you're in, you go like, you know what? I'm not crazy, because the way Lissa told that story, she did it. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was feeling. And it's also kind of a safe space for men, so they understand like, this is why we do what we do. This is what we're thinking when this happens. This is what we're feeling when we say this. So that's why I say this podcast is to educate men, because sometimes men see their wives or girlfriends or partners or whatever and they think she's crazy. Why she acting like that? Why she do this? Why she say that? Well, when I tell my situation or my experiences or things that men want me to get out to the public, then we know that's what they were thinking. Like, there's nothing like that feeling when you're riding by somebody's house, and as you get closer and closer, you feel that tightening in your throat, and that thing in your stomach where you want to throw up. You know you should turn around, but you don't, because you just gotta see. Because you have to know, if what I'm thinking is worse than what it really is, I have to know. I've done that. I don't do it no more. Gas too, I ain't spending wasting no gas on nobody. But nobody else. Baby, I go to bed. Not necessarily sleep, but I'm not getting up on my bed to go ride by somebody's house. But if you are at that phase in your life, you're not crazy. I've been there, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast. So that's why I opted not to change the name. Those kind of experiences are mine. They're the dick in conversation experiences. When I'm doing something like that and it didn't work out for that person that I went and ruled by their house, all I lost was dick in conversation. I'm still friends with them, but no more intimacy. We don't talk like we used to. And guess what? My lights are still on. Ah. Cable is still on. Ah. Kids didn't miss a meal. Woo. That's the message I want to resonate with women and maybe men from this podcast. And that's why I didn't change the name. I want to still tell stories about the guy I was seeing who had appliances in his room. Like, you too old to be living like you in a dorm room. Bro, you got an old kitchen. What's up with that? And the guy talking about my two bellies. I still mess up to say. That's such a terrible thing to say. Both of my bellies. He loved both of my bellies. Things like that. So that, when you have those experiences with someone and they say that, it's not completely jarring. It is just, that's what happens. Learn from my experiences. If you think you're about to go and break into your own home, don't do it. Because I know for a fact, there are times, more than two, where I could have, should have, would have been in jail. But God just looked out for my butt. I just didn't have my tail didn't end up in jail. And Erica spoke on how her decision making and acting and in a moment where it did land in jail. So that's why I'm saying I want people to learn from this podcast and give a second thought like, oh, is this really what I want to do? Is this really something I should do? That's what this podcast is about. It's about my experiences and some shared experiences as a woman. So, nope, not changing the name. And if anyone is bothered by it, you know what? It's what? Millions of podcasts. Find yours. Find you one. By the way, Netflix is now putting podcasts on. So Netflix, if you all want to get, this one, put it on there. More than happy to. Come on, holler at me. Because right now, I am on Amazon, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, and YouTube. You can always find the Dick and Conversation podcast with Alyssa on those streaming platforms. You can also find me on Facebook page, Dick and Conversation Podcast. You can also look me up on Instagram, Dick and Conversation _podcast. My email is dickandconvo@gmail.com. And my blue sky, not X, blue sky is dickandconvo.bsky.social. I'm Elissa. And once again, like I said, probably in the last recording, I don't know if I said in this one, healing isn't always pretty, but it sure does make for a good story. And Lord knows I got plenty of them to tell. I'll see you next time. Bye.